Welcome to the Apple Insider Podcast. This is your host, Stephen Robles, and today we got a smorgasbord of topics from Skywalker Sound using Macs and their audio setup. We have some interesting news about voice assistants. Some may be using your data for advertising, and we'll get some 1Password and password app updates. This episode is brought to you by VOG Duo. They make great GAN chargers for your devices. We'll talk about them in a moment. And joining me this week, back from across the pond, my friend William Gallagher. How's it going, William?
Hello. Actually, it's kind of going a bit warily, to be fair, because...
Warily?
Yeah, I've been listening, and you've been talking about this Wikipedia page you found about me. But you've done that now,
Okay.
haven't you? We can move on. Yeah.
No. Now I finally get to address it with you directly. First of all, I was trying to find a high-quality image of you because in the Apple Podcast app, if you scroll down to our show page, it now has wonderful pictures of the different hosts. You're on there, Wes, Mike, myself. Our pictures are there, which is very cool. Some of our recent guests as well. You'll see the full pictures, which is really cool. But in finding this picture, when I Googled your name, I saw a William Gallagher Wikipedia page, something that I envy. One day I hope to get a Wikipedia page.
Just stop right there. If you just wanted a photograph, you could have asked me, but no. You were stalking me online. That's what was going on.
No.
I was right here.
You sent me some...
I have press images.
You sent me some low-res 200-pixel postage stamp image. So no, I went for the high-quality stuff.
Oh, sorry, that was a mistake. I've some shots from the Writers Guild that I actually look reasonable in it. They're mostly the back of my head, but they look better. So we should talk. Okay.
No, your picture on this Wikipedia page is very good. It's like black and white. You look artsy and artistic. But anyway, I just have some questions here. Looking through this Wikipedia page. It has some writing credits for things like Doctor Who.
Yes.
Have you written for Doctor Who stuff?
I wrote Doctor Who radio dramas for Big Finish and the BBC, and that's why there's a Wikipedia page about me. You can't breathe out in the same postcode as Doctor Who without someone doing a Wikipedia page on you. So I know that's how it started. But I got to admit, I was actually very impressed. It's mostly accurate as well. And one of my editors told me that I'm sure he said they had a phone call from some Wikipedia editor checking that I was the same person who did something. I did not know Wikipedia was that thorough. I was really quite impressed.
Oh, it was very thorough. In your bio, at the very last paragraph, it says he is presently doing the same, meaning Apple-centric reviews and other features, at AppleInsider.com. And I was hoping maybe in that final line, it would include something like, and co-host the Apple Insider podcast with Stephen Robles. And maybe I would have a chance of being on Wikipedia, but not yet. It does not mention me or the Apple Insider podcast at all. But that's fine. This is a very impressive Wikipedia page.
Do you know how to find out who has been editing a page? Is there one person out there whose quite dull job is looking after my page? Or is it just whoever goes on by?
I think it can be crowdsourced. Like you can create an account and submit changes. I think there's maybe some review process. And so, multiple people can add stuff to a Wikipedia page. So I think not anyone, but I think you can go through a process of being approved to create and edit Wikipedia pages. But I was just very impressed. You got all these credits here. You got a nice photo. Mentions Apple Insider, so it's very cool. So my question to you is, William, are you in fact famous? Are you a famous person?
How can you possibly check? Yes. Yes.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I didn't know it included Apple Insider, so it's fairly up to date, isn't it? That's very impressive, I think.
Yeah, except for this podcast, but whatever. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We got lots of stuff to talk about, so let's jump into it. Do want to give some shout outs. We had some 5-star reviews. SL41 from the USA, Braden from Nova Scotia, Canada, Big Boo from the United Kingdom. I think he's good friends with William Gallagher, Big Boo, and Rousey1973 from the USA. Thank you for those 5-star reviews. Very cool. I wanted to mention this real quick. It was Star Wars Day earlier this week, May the 4th. If you don't get the pun, May the Force, May the 4th. It's a pun. Anyway, Apple actually released a video behind the scenes of how Skywalker Sound, who does the sound for the Star Wars movies, uses Mac devices in their studio. The video's pretty incredible. You really get behind the scenes of their server room and how they have their stuff connected together. They have 130 Mac Pros rack mounted in this studio, which is incredible. If you were wondering who's buying those Mac Pros, well, Skywalker Sound bought 130 of the rack mounted versions, in case you were wondering. And it's actually impressive. They have equipment to sync those Mac Pros together. So when they are in the editing room or even in the screening room, they can control those computers and the playback of all the stuff in there. So it's really cool. They show some of the Foley work, which is how they make some of the sound effects. And they basically like drop a bunch of metal things to make some sound effects and like make a mic do feedback by a speaker for lightsaber sounds. Very cool. They basically have a bunch of Mac computers. They have some Mac Minis running Pro Tools, all this kind of stuff. It was very cool just to see some of the behind the scenes for that. Do you see any of those images or that video?
Oh yeah, it's so well made. It's riveting, and the sheer joy of the people working there. It's just
Yes.
tremendous. Here in the UK, there used to be quite a cheesy show called Heartbeat, a police comeuppance drama set in a village, all this sort of happy stuff, set in the 60s. And when would it be made? 90s, I think. Even then, the editors had a shared iTunes library with every 1960s track they had. And as they got to a bit that had somebody on a bicycle, they'd search for the keyword bicycle, pull up the tune, pop it into the show, and move on. I felt Skywalker Sound was a little more precise, just a little bit more concerned.
That's pretty legit. They're pretty legit. So, well, anyway, that was cool. We'll put a link in the show notes. You can watch that video. Also, we actually got a little bit more information about WWDC. Apple announced that starting May 9th, which is next week, as you listen to this episode, developers can actually apply to attend the June 6th keynote from WWDC in person. It's still not clear where they're actually going to be doing the screening or where people who go in person will be watching the event, the keynote video, because again, it's not a live presentation. These developers are basically going to watch the keynote and the State of the Union address with other developers and Apple staff, employees, presumably. There's also going to be developer-only special events that they will be able to do in person at Apple Park. So still interested, are they going to do this outside by the Rainbow Courtyard in the middle of the Spaceship Campus? Are they going to do it in the Steve Jobs Theater? So still don't know for sure, but you can apply to be a part of it. You know, I have a developer account, William. Maybe I should apply. You think they'd let me go?
Why not? I
You sound-
I suddenly thought I was certain, absolutely certain, that what I'd heard was that there was a new developer centre at Apple Park, but maybe I've just misheard, and it's this is the new developer program for it. If there is a new centre, and I'm starting to think there is, maybe that's where this screening will be. But I love the idea of it being in the Steve Jobs Theatre, because at one point, surely the video will show Tim Cook in the Steve Jobs Centre. So you'll be in the centre watching the centre. I love that kind of meta kind of... Oh, you're just looking at me now.
No, I like it. Yeah, it's going to be Tim Cook could be sitting next to you as you watch Tim Cook on screen inside the Steve Jobs Theater. Who you might mention Steve Jobs. You never know. Triple meta. So I'm looking at the actual announcement from Apple, and they said, I'm just going to read this verbatim. Gather with others in the developer community to watch the keynote and State of the Union videos alongside Apple engineers and experts, explore the all-new developer center, so there is some kind of physical developer center, and so much more. This celebration marks the start of an inspiring week of sessions, labs, and lounges. All right, well, there you go. So
I used to live next to a film studio that had 5 stages, and outside the front door there was a pub that everybody called Stage 6. I bet the developer centre is the secret name for the bar at Apple Park. It would fit, wouldn't it? There we go.
Nice. Very nice. All right, also behind the scenes look, YouTuber iJustine, she's been covering Apple for such a long time. She's got, millions of subscribers on YouTube, but she got to do a behind the scenes tour of the Apple Fitness Plus studio. Most of the video is her talking to some of the Apple Fitness people and the VP of Fitness and kind of just talking about the program. But we did get a couple shots behind the scenes of the live production room that they use to film the actual Apple Fitness Plus workouts. And it's pretty wild. Like if you're familiar with video production, they have a multi-view where you see the different cameras, and they also have a system showing where heart rate and activity rings will be displayed on screen so that those doing the camera movements and switching will know not to put things where the activity rings or heart rate might be. The cameras are mostly robotic, so the control room for the switching and the filming and all that, they control the cameras remotely, so there's a minimum number of people in the actual fitness studio. So pretty cool. It's wild to think that Apple has legit video production studios where they're doing, live switching and recording for their own stuff. And actually, this is not in Apple Park. This is in...
Santa Monica.
Yeah, Santa Monica is where this studio is.
It's deeply impressive setup. I mean, the production is just perfect. I think you don't appreciate it until you see someone else's workout video, just how precisely well done Apple does. I mean, taste, talent, it's incredibly impressive outfit, I think.
Yeah, and I think with this kind of special behind-the-scenes feature, Wes and I talked about what are we going to see at WWDC. I could see them pushing more into that Fitness Plus service. I've talked about they can add kind of ongoing workout tracks like 100-day, 150-day programs, so you can actually kind of follow one program for an extended period of time. Maybe some new workouts. I mean, they're adding new workouts all the time. And group classes, I think, would be the big feature to take on the likes of Peloton, where you can actually do a live workout with others using some kind of FaceTime, share play, a live broadcasted, which, now that I think about it, that setup that they use to record the Fitness Plus workouts could easily be used for a live streamed workout. So you can tune in at a specific time, say 10 a.m. Eastern, or probably more like 1 or 2 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, and do a workout with a live instructor, knowing that there's so many other people also tuning in. And I don't know, that'd be pretty cool. I think that would make it an attractive option for those that like the group workout scenarios.
But actually, even the recording ones already have the fitness bar showing your state compared to other people who have taken the current thing. I always seem to be in the middle.
Oh,
I don't know. I never go below the middle, but I never get any higher either. So maybe it's just stuck.
okay,
I've just realized
I do.
that.
I'll be honest though. I do get little notifications on my Apple Watch sometimes, William, that it says William completed a workout. I see you doing stuff over there. Well, what do you do when you do a Fitness Plus workout? What are your preferences?
Sorry, you're breaking up there.
No, you can't deny this. I get the notification. Unless you're strapping it to some animal and it's running around London. I got to imagine you're doing something.
Yeah.
You doing... I know you're in a secret bunker with MI6, so I don't want to...
Because you stalked me for photographs. You could be tracking my fitness. This is getting rather scary.
Searching the internet.
Next, you'll be using my AirTags. Oh,
no. Oh, not even getting into that. We've talked so much about that. No AirTag. No AirTag talk. All right, so I do want to mention this Apple Store union thing. We haven't talked a lot about it on the show, but it's getting close to this one Apple Store. It's Cumberland Mall in Atlanta, Georgia, where there's about 107 workers that are wanting to form a union, mostly to raise that starting pay for Apple employees. 70% of the workers at this store have signed cards of support, plan to file a petition with the National Labor Relations Board. They are mostly wanting the starting pay, which is right now $20 at this particular store, to increase to $28, claiming that for a single parent in Atlanta, Georgia, it really should be $31 as starting pay. So they're not even asking for 31, they're wanting 28. So this vote is going to be happening on June 2nd. Whether or not it's actually going to move forward, we'll find out more then. Reminder that Apple has hired the same law firm that Starbucks used to discourage union formation. They've hired that law firm to kind of squelch this effort. But if it does move forward in this one store, it's going to set an interesting precedent for other Apple stores. And, I was thinking about this. It's an interesting problem for Apple specifically. Like when you look at the other technology companies, Google does not have stores where they have to deal with retail employee workforce. Microsoft, they've shuttered their stores, so they don't have physical stores anymore. Amazon, you could say, does have Whole Foods, and they do have a couple of their Amazon grocery stores. But when it comes to the tech arm of Amazon, there's not really like a retail force for that. You get an Echo on Amazon, like from their website, or you go to Best Buy, Target, and you buy their devices there. So I do feel like this is a uniquely Apple problem that has a very large retail workforce specifically selling Apple products. And, I don't have a lot of experience or knowledge on unions specifically. So I'll throw it to you, William. Do you have any thoughts or insight into this?
Yes, I'm a member of the Writers Guild here in Great Britain. I'm about to stand again to be deputy chair of it. So I am very pro unions, and pay is one thing, and of course that's important, and of course any company, Apple rather, will try to keep it low and workers need it to be higher. There's always going to be that battle, but there's also conditions, and we know from the Apple II campaign that there have been some foul situations in Apple retail around the world, and clearly Apple management isn't fixing it. Maybe a union would help. So I'm very pro the unions. Good luck to them.
Okay, well, there you go. Sonos, which is the maker of the smart speakers, they make sound bars, they make the wireless speakers, like whole home audio. They support AirPlay too, so we actually talk about them a lot on the HomeKit Insider podcast, which we talk about this specifically on Monday's episode as well, if you want to tune into that. But Sonos is actually coming out with their own voice assistant. It will be Hey Sonos. It will be just for the Sonos, sound and audio devices. It will work with things like Apple Music, Deezer, Amazon Music, not support for Spotify or YouTube Music just yet. I guess they're working on that. But William, I saw this and I was like, I don't think the world needs another voice assistant. I don't know. I mean, I would take a William Gallagher, hey William voice assistant, but I don't think we need another Sonos one. What do you think about this?
No. That's
Deep thoughts, really. William Gallagher. No.
Actually, 6 volumes of thoughts going through my head then about how irritating Alexa and recently Siri have been as well. I love Siri, but it's been driving me spare just in the last few days over some things. So maybe a new friend coming along would sort it out, but I'm never going to buy a Sonos speaker, so I'll never know, and I'm shut out from all of that.
Now, I am actually getting a Sonos speaker for the new house. I'm getting the Sonos Arc for a home theater type setup in one of the rooms because I didn't want to do a bunch of 5 individual wired speakers, although I'm doing that in a different room. But anyway, I do have a Sonos Arc. Sonos are very popular. They are pretty pricey depending on what model you go with, although they are announcing a lower end soundbar for $249 called the Sonos Ray. Again, we talk about that on HomeKit Insider, but I found it interesting, another voice assistant. I'm not sure if we need it, and this is also on the heels, which I thought this was very poignant. Amazon and its voice assistant, Alexa, which you just mentioned, The Verge actually reported that Amazon and third parties, including advertising and tracking services, does collect data from your interactions with Alexa through Echo smart speakers and share it with as many as 41 advertising partners.
Ouch.
And that data is then used to infer user interests, serve targeted ads on platform, both on the Echo devices and off platform, like on the web. And apparently this type of data, the voice assistant data, is in hot demand. This is actually from the Verge report. They say that it leads to 30-time higher ad bids from advertisers because this data, I guess, is just better for that tracking, figuring out the interests of users. And Amazon did confirm with The Verge that they do use the voice data with Alexa interactions to inform relevant ads shown on Amazon and other sites. Now, Again, we talk about this at length on HomeKit Insider. I feel like this is one of those things that plays into if you have friends and relatives who hand wavy just say, I know my phone's listening all the time and whatever, like I've just accepted it. And typically me, as someone who is a proponent of Apple devices and pretty confident they do not use that data for advertising, they will use it for diagnostic purposes. And now you do get that pop-up when you set up like a HomePod, or if you're setting up Siri for the first time on an iPhone or iPad, it'll say, do you want to share audio recordings to help Apple make the product better? And you can say no. You can say, no, don't share my audio recordings. But apparently, with Alexa devices, your voice recordings, at least when you interact with the device, it is not saying that it's listening all the time, as a lot of people, I think, kind of assume it's just always listening. It's not that case. But when you do interact with it and you say the wake word and whatever you say during those commands, Amazon is using what you say for advertising, sharing that with advertising partners, and will even customize advertisements on the web with that data.
Goodness.
Yeah, this is the world we live in now, William.
I mean, you knew. It's just, I winced at 41. I had no idea. Oh, you can't knock Amazon. If they're going to do something, at least do it thoroughly, I suppose. But
sure.
I just wrote a thing about a possible Apple Car patent application that would have Siri understand when you say, take me to the gardening store, that it would look for the local one and take you to it. And I was thinking, Apple Maps, Siri, it'll be which is the closest, which is open now, things like that. And if it was Alexa, it would be something like, which grocery store, which gardening store has paid me to drive somebody nearby? And somehow it seems worse, the car taking you an extra 5 miles around just to pass an advertiser. But
yeah, right.
Okay.
And I actually did see a TikTok video, I think, of someone who ordered an Uber or a Lyft, I forget which one it was, and it was a self-driving car that went to pick them up. And so they got in the car, no driver, no one else in the vehicle. There's a little screen on the back of the seat, and you can say, hello, William, this is your ride. This is your destination. Are you ready to go? You tap the screen, and the car just drives itself away to your destination. And listen, I've been to London, William. I know all the black cabs that scour the city. Would you step into one of those if there was no driver and you just knew it was going to drive itself to your destination? Would you do that?
No.
No? You wouldn't trust
That's
it?
the quality of information you're getting from me today. No. I hesitate because the first ever time I got into a Tesla for a test drive and the salesman was talking about how great it is, you have to watch the road but not as much. And I'm thinking, yeah, right, never never going to take my eyes off that road. We're on a motorway. It's really fast. And then he said, and this is the button for Radio 4. And I went, oh, I'd have a look at that. And suddenly realised I was not paying any attention to the road at all. That quickly trusted the car. So maybe this, if I knew I was getting it, I can think we're going to get used to this, but it would be disturbing. I mean, yeah, particularly in London with the knowledge and the traffic and the situations around there. Did the person get to where they were going?
Oh, they didn't include that in the video.
Suspicious.
They just did the beginning.
Right.
Yeah, I think they're still alive. I think they're still making videos. They just didn't conclude that one. Okay. So, I would want to try it in maybe a more rural area before I do like highway driving or like Manhattan city driving. But I don't know. I would try it. But anyway. The voice assistant thing with Alexa, we literally do HomeKit Insider podcast because we believe that HomeKit is one of the best when it comes to privacy and security as far as smart home devices. And I think this re-emphasizes that point. The Amazon Assistant does have many more device compatibility and works with things like smart faucets and other things that HomeKit just does not work with yet, just does not have direct control. They can do some of those things, but, I saw this one faucet. This is only because we're, building a new house. There's actually a faucet that integrates with Amazon's Assistant where you can tell it to fill a pot with a certain amount of water, like fill it with 4 cups water, fill it with 8 cups water, and it will literally, the faucet will turn on, fill it with 8 cups, and then turn itself off. So you don't have to measure it. It's just all automated. It's like, man, that's pretty cool, but I'm good. Like, I just don't think I'm going to have an Alexa anywhere. I think I'm good. Do you have any Alexas? I don't want to make you feel bad.
I do. I have one Alexa. Well, my wife Anne was given it as a present. And actually the other day it did suddenly remind her that she has occasionally ordered, I can't remember what it was, something she's bought a couple of times over the years. Might you want that again? And that was a surprise. She told it no, quite firmly. But,
yeah, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me unless spoken to. How about that, Echo? Let's do that.
I'll tell you one thing, because we have a HomePod Mini and an Echo Dot thing next to the TV set, and so often something on the TV will trigger the HomePod Mini, but it almost never triggers Alexa, because Amazon has this really clever thing of analysing the frequency of the sounds and knowing that it's on television and is not poisoning the room. And so technically fascinating, but... we didn't want whatever it was it wanted us to buy. It's
also great at hearing when you want some cereal and it just ships you some Cheerios and charges your card automatically. No, I'm just kidding. It does not do that. And I'm also curious if it will... Sorry, are you laughing at the Cheerios?
There's a podcast called Serial, isn't there? So, you're trying to listen to that, and suddenly cornflakes, Cheerios, Weetabix. Okay, yeah.
That's a very different cereal. I don't want to go there. That's a different kind of cereal. No information has come out about Google's Assistant, like the Google Home devices, but I can only imagine if Amazon is doing this and how big advertising is a part of Amazon's business, Google... even more so. I mean, their entire business model is basically advertising. I have to imagine this is happening there as well, but no reports have come out about the Google devices yet, so we'll have to wait and see.
Is there, suddenly think there should be a Facebook smart assistant, because surely they would want to do untoward.
What? Why do you want to watch the world burn? No, I want a Wikipedia assistant that just reads me William's Wikipedia page every night before I go to sleep. I can just hear William's biography.
Look, it's very nice, but I think you should stop now. You need a little bit of help.
We'll do that.
Look at all the other William Gallagher's on there. There's a baseball player or something with my name. So, there you go.
Or something. I'm now just thinking about this. When I was in elementary school, I actually had a friend. His name was Billy Gallagher.
Oh, yeah.
But obviously his first full name was William. I've known a William Gallagher for almost my entire life. That's something. It just popped into my head. Anyway. Not really relevant, but just wanted to say so.
I have never met anyone like you. There you go. Throw that back at you.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. This episode is brought to you by VOG Duo GAN chargers. We've talked about chargers on the show before. I have a couple GAN chargers, but none that look as good as VOG Duo's leather-covered chargers. Listen, it's nice to have appealing stuff when you plug in your computer at a coffee shop or just for yourself when you're using it at home. It's nice to have good-looking power bricks, charging bricks. And VOG Duo's leather chargers let you add some affordable luxury to make the day productive and delightful. And the great thing is these are small but powerful because they're GaN chargers. The gallium nitride charging allows you to have small bricks that are still high wattage. And these come in 65 and 100 watt charging bricks. You can optimize the high power and compact size especially for your MacBook Pro and other Apple devices. And they put out less heat and take up much less space. The VOG Duo chargers also have a portable design. They have the foldable plugs, which is really nice, so those prongs aren't just sticking out when they're in your bag. And there's cable management for mobility. And these chargers have extraordinary leather craftsmanship. It's rare to find in everyday electronics, especially with power bricks. I don't know of any other ones that do this. And it's bold and unique designs. I love these chargers. They also have multiple USB-C and USB-A ports, depending on what model you get. So you can charge multiple devices at once with these GAN chargers. I love it. It comes in 100 watt and 65 watt models. So here's what you do. There's links in show notes to both the 65 watt and 100 watt charger. Click those links and you can buy it from the VOG Duo website. You can also go to vogduo.us, VOGDUO.us. But click those links in the episode description and they will know that you came from the Apple Insider podcast. Our thanks to VOG Duo for sponsoring this episode. So there was a big update to 1Password. 1Password 8 for Mac has now launched, completely redesigned, has some new features like working across apps, not just in the web browser and in the standalone app, but if you open an app on your Mac and there's a login window, 1Password can autofill it there, plus some other features. This was a controversial update when it was first announced because 1Password stated it's going to use Electron, which is a kind of developing platform that Slack uses, where it's not a super native app. It's not, written in Apple's like Objective-C, Cocoa, like all that kind of stuff. It is written in a more universal language, and then Electron translates it to the different platforms. But I've downloaded it. I downloaded it on day one. I got 1Password 8 on my Mac. It is Electron, but I will say, one, the design is really nice. I really love the redesign. It feels modern. It looks and feels like a Mac app when you open it. I do think that it has fixed some of the little bugs here and there. Using it in a web browser like Safari could be a little buggy previously, where it wouldn't activate. Sometimes I would have to open the full app in order to get the little toolbar extension to activate. That seems to have been fixed. It's much more reliable now. And it is even better on my iOS devices. The iOS apps, I don't think were updated recently. It seems to be working there as well. So anyway, I think I like it. Going to be using it for long term, but I know you're a 1Password user also, William. Did you upgrade to version 8?
On one of my Macs, yes. I haven't got around to doing it on the other, just the one I was using on the day it came out. I haven't used it very much, but I do like the look of it. I worry about the Electron side, though, because I'm thinking... distant memory of one of the reasons Java didn't really take off was it was seen as this language that sat over whatever the platform was. And if you wrote to that, you wrote to every platform. But it meant you were kind of beholden to that. It was out of your control. You were right. If Electron decides to go wrong or crash or something, then all the apps are gone that would otherwise have worked. And I didn't think it was a terrible decision to move to it, but I was disappointed when 1Password did it, particularly because the way they announced it was, we started on the Mac, we're sticking to the Mac, we've got a new plan to work only for the Mac, except we're not, we're then doing it on the Electron from the iOS version. It felt like they were excusing moving to Electron, and that kind of worried me. And Slack is an Electron app, as you mentioned, and Slack goes wrong sometimes for no obviously good reasons. So it feels like it's an abstraction layer that presumably they had to do, but I'm kind of cautious. I will upgrade my other Mac as soon as I get 5 minutes. But no, actually, I know why. because I'm a 1Password 7 user, the first thing that happens is it says, do you want to move your data over? And of course you say yes. And when I tried it, it stood there with a screen saying, do not quit this app, waiting for the data to migrate. And after half an hour,
oh goodness,
I thought, stuff this. I quit the app, started again, and then suddenly everything all worked. So you could actually say day one, minute one, first experience of an Electron app didn't work. So that's actually really quite scary. Now I've put that back in my head. Thanks for reminding me of that.
Any kind of hang up like that when it comes to your entire password database is a little scary.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, my experience was fine moving to 1Password 8. I did it on 2 different Macs, Mac Studio, MacBook Pro. It was fine. I do save all my passwords in iCloud Keychain as well. And I've been putting my 2-factor codes in iCloud Keychain. I like that idea of having both. I would recommend if you use 1Password, you can export your entire database as a file, and maybe you can literally print that out physically and put it in a safe. That might be a good idea. Or at least save that file somewhere very secure, not maybe in Dropbox or something, like maybe some like on a hard drive and put that in a safe or something. But it's been good. One little thing, I don't know if this is a 1Password 8 update or whatever, but whenever I'm in a web browser and the little login fields, there would be that 1Password symbol right there. And before, you would have to click it. It would tell you to do a keyboard shortcut, which would open the 1Password extension, and then you do your fingerprint or password, and then you could sign in. And now, whenever I click that in a website, it just prompts for a Touch ID on the keyboard, and it can authenticate right away. I don't have to do the keyboard shortcut anymore. So I don't know if that was a 1Password 8 update, but it is a welcome change. And so it's been working well, for sure.
We still get that fight, though, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
You go to a password field and it's Safari and 1Password going, no, me, kind of for it. So I've got used to clicking around the side of one of the dialog boxes.
Yeah. It's very tedious, like a game of Operation. You got to just tap the right autofill thing. But I have not felt comfortable turning one of them off, because if you turn off the iCloud keychain autofill, it's going to not save them, when you log in, and I don't want to do that. So I'll deal with both of them active. No problem. Not a problem. I will say Malcolm had a kind of roundup of all the different password apps with this 1Password update. Obviously, you have iCloud keychain, but you also have LastPass, Dashlane, NordPass. You have a bunch of different password options out there. So if you do want to try different apps, you can do that. I'll put a link to this article. But I will say, really consider Apple's iCloud keychain solution, because it is very good. It does the two-factor authentication really well now, and you can create a little Siri shortcut. I have this. I'll put a link in the show notes to the shortcut so you can just download it. But you can have a shortcut that jumps you directly to the password screen in settings. So you don't have to tap the settings app, scroll down, tap passwords, log in. You can just do a one shortcut, even a home screen icon, and jump right to the password screen if you want to use it kind of like as your password app. So I'm going to do it right now so I remember, but I will put that shortcut in the show notes.
I'll use that. Thank you.
Yeah. Along the password topic, it was actually last year at WWDC that Apple announced that it's working towards a future without passwords, that while iCloud Keychain will save logins and passwords, they're hoping that one day there'll be a passkey feature where your iCloud keychain will just let you into the different websites that you have saved in this passkey, and you won't have to deal with email and passwords or username and passwords anymore, that it'll be like kind of a hardware security key that will just authenticate you as you use that specific device. And there's other companies that are actually on board to doing this. I believe it's like Google.
Microsoft as well. Yeah, they're big players in this.
Yeah, so Microsoft, Apple, Google, they're all in on this passkey thing, and it's Fido is the company for that is kind of trying to create the universal passkey that will go across platforms. Curious, I think in the future, I don't know how many years it'll be, but you might not have to deal with usernames and passwords anymore. It might just be whatever your device is, your iPhone, maybe your Apple Watch, will kind of be your hardware passkey to everything, and it will just let you in as you use that device. That'll be a cool future.
Except I read the announcement from Apple and Google and Fido and all this, and you go through and it says, of course, you don't need passwords. Now we can do all sorts of things, Touch ID, biometric stuff and all this. And it says it'll be very simple. You'll just do this, your device, you can use a passcode, which means should biometric fail for any reason, you're down to a 4 or 6 digit passcode to enter it. And that seems substantially less secure than a password. So it's there's a line from Star Trek, isn't there? The more you overthink the plumbing, the easier it is to stop up the drain. As soon as you can have passcode access, forget the rest. Yeah,
that's interesting. What is your? I'm not going to ask what is your passcode, but for the passcode on your iPhone, you could do 4 digits, you could do 6 digits, you could do no passcode, which I do not recommend, or you can do an alphanumeric password where you can use letters, numbers, and symbols to unlock your iPhone. Which do you do, William? Are you a 4, 6, or passphrase kind of guy?
I'm a 6er. Mostly because I've been a 4 on the watch and I'm happy enough with that. 6, okay. But I know someone who was required to do the fuller one. And I swear the phone she's been given, they block Touch ID as well. So the number of times she has to schlep through the most ridiculously contorted password for it, I think I'll stick with 6 for the moment. So I'm playing it both sides here. 6 isn't secure enough and it's good enough for me. So yeah,
I go with the alphanumeric passkey on my iPhone and do the 6 digit on the Apple Watch.
Oh, do you know?
And sometimes it's annoying, like if Face ID stops working or if you have to restart your phone for any reason. But I don't know. I like the idea of it being a little longer, more secure. That's how I do.
I didn't know that you could do 6 digits on the watch. I think,
Okay.
actually, I'm going to forget that I knew. Thank you very much anyway. Okay.
So, update on the app removal. Apple announced that apps that have been in the App Store without any updates for a number of time, it was kind of unspecified at first, and now they've actually specified 3 years. If developers have an app in the App Store that is not updated in 3 years, that they will be removed from the App Store unless there is some kind of update made. And Apple has increased the deadline. They said originally this is going to happen in 30 days, but there was kind of a developer outcry like, you're taking all of our stuff out of the App Store. What's the deal? Apple has extended that so developers have 90 days to do at least some kind of update to their app if it's been untouched for 3 years. And I think Apple's, again, the privacy nutrition labels, which is something that was introduced, I believe it was iOS 14. If you haven't updated your app in over 3 years, it does not have those, the nutrition labels. So Apple's probably trying to get more apps to adopt that. But Apple also said that they're wanting apps to be updated to make sure they support the latest screen sizes and devices. Again, 3 years ago, didn't have, the iPad mini that we do now, that new model there. I'm not sure 3 years ago. I guess the iPhone 12 mini, that would have been after 3 years ago. So, if your app was just 3 years ago last updated, the iPhone mini was not out. So Apple is trying to say we want to make sure that all apps support all the screen sizes, do all the stuff. Probably want to get those nutrition labels in the App Store as well. So developers have a little bit more time, and it's extended to 3 years.
I had actually thought if I were a developer, I'd just go in, I don't know, put a space at the end of the name, save it again, and we were done. But you're right, you can't do that now. You have to add nutrition labels and stuff. And it's quite a faff going through the forms for it. So even just doing that is going to be quite a job, especially if you have a lot of apps. I mean, how long did it take Google to get around to doing all of its? A lot of work.
Yeah, for sure. I thought this was fun. There's a young filmmaker that really makes excellent videos, films, and he was doing it on a 2018 MacBook Pro with a 512 SSD, and he was really struggling, especially with some of that storage space. He didn't really have a lot of external drives to be able to put his footage, and so Apple actually partnered with the YouTube channel Fro Knows Photo, ran by Jared Polin, and they actually gave this young man a bunch of new Apple equipment so he can continue making films. They gave him a Mac Studio, 14-inch MacBook Pro, studio display to go with that Mac Studio. Even gave him an iPhone, a HomePod Mini, Magic Keyboard, and trackpad. So really cool. Apple giving this to a young filmmaker, and he was definitely excited. He was on the verge of tears, cried when he received it. And so really cool that Apple does that. I do think it's interesting of all those like pro devices, like the Mac Studio, Studio Display, MacBook Pro, that the only speaker Apple can give this young man is a HomePod Mini, because that's really the only speaker that Apple sells right now. I mean, I guess he could have given him AirPods Max, but
they did throw in 24 terabyte storage that they don't make. So they could have bought Sonos with a new intelligent Siri-like speaker. They could have done more, couldn't they? But they did a huge amount. It was very sweet to watch it, yes.
Yeah, it was very nice. So Mike Peterson, he had a fun article talking about the future of foldable devices. That will we ever see a foldable iPhone, or will it be more likely a foldable iPad or even MacBook? I think this is interesting only because yesterday, William, just yesterday, I was talking to somebody. They went to take down my email. They pulled their phone out of their pocket and they flipped it open.
Yeah.
And it was one of those Samsung flips, I think. I don't know exactly what model it was because I don't know them that well. But I actually saw a foldable phone in the wild, William.
Yes.
I saw the crease in the middle of the screen, and that was off-putting. but it was there. They exist out there.
The same here. I'm working with a woman who has a foldable Samsung, and I don't know her well enough to ask more. And I saw it when we were working together in the workshop, but I was not close enough to see is the screen working or not. But she seems very happy with it. And it looked very good from afar. But you're telling me it still creases up? Yeah, I'm put off too.
I mean, it's very subtle. I was off angle because I was watching the guy put in my email address, and so I could just see tiny little, not like a line, there wasn't anything visually, but you could just see kind of the indentation because the thing folds. It's got to have some kind of material that will allow it to fold. But Mike in his article is talking about, is it a better chance that we might see foldable iPads or foldable MacBooks, which again, you could say MacBooks Fold right now, but the idea being that it'd be kind of a full touchscreen device with a virtual keyboard and it would, fold together. I don't know, William. I was talking the other day about 3D televisions and how that was a whole fad and then it just kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
And I know people are saying that like foldable phones are it, like they're going to be the next thing for smartphones and all that. And I'm just not convinced yet, William. I'm not convinced that foldable phones is where we want to go.
I kind of miss the old flip phones. In the olden days, if you're having a row with somebody on a landline, you could slam that phone down. And with flip phones, at least you could crunch it like you're doing something. But with an iPhone, it's like, never talk to me again. Beep. It's the smallest little thing. And I want that physical action back. But when you say that about 3D television, 3D television, 3D films, it's like every few years it comes into fashion and it fails and it goes away again. Maybe this will be the same. But I can't wait to see this person I'm working with again and ask her more.
Yeah, you should ask him. I've seen actually probably two total. I've seen two total foldable phones in the wild. And, it is compact in the pocket. And when you bring it out, it is a big screen. So, maybe. Okay.
Hang on. So a moment ago, you'd seen one. And then because I'd seen one, no, you've seen two and things. I see that as is building up.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. No, I just remembered. It just came up. Okay. Just came to my mind. So Tony Fadell, who worked at Apple, was on the teams for the first iPod and iPhone, then went on to do Nest, the thermostats, before they were bought by Google. He had an interview with John Fort of CNBC to promote his new book called Build, where he talks a lot about the behind the scenes of the product development of those first iPods and iPhones. And he said some things that we kind of knew before, that when the iPod was coming out, Steve Jobs did not want to make iTunes for Windows. And it actually took Tony Fadell bringing in journalist Walt Mossberg, who, ran the All Things D conference with Kara Swisher, then went on to do Recode at The Verge and all that. But Walt Mossberg is actually the one that helped convince Steve Jobs to bring iTunes to Windows, which you could argue was a big reason why those early iPods were a huge success, because you could get it and sync it with whatever computer you had. Talked about FireWire and how that was the only standard that could provide the fast syncing that Apple wanted to do at that point. And it was interesting, Tony Fadell actually tweeted an image of some of the concept devices they were working on around that time, kind of the iPod, but before the iPhone era. And they actually had an iPod Nano that was all screen. It was like basically a mini iPod Touch or a mini iPhone, you could say. And that was actually one of the concept devices that they were working on, which, if you remember, there was, I think it was dubbed the iPod Mini, but it had a touch screen and a click wheel, if I'm remembering correctly. Like eventually they did come out with a device like that. But this all-screen, like iPod Nano, is pretty interesting.
I quite fancy that book, now you've said it. I'll look into that one.
Yeah, I've been wanting to read that. It's Build by Tony Fadell. And yeah, there was, it was an iPod Nano. It had a home button, and it did have a touch screen with kind of like that proprietary OS. And so they eventually did come out with a Nano with a screen, but it wasn't that full-screen Nano that this prototype looks like. So yeah, that book is Build by Tony Fadell. And then another book, this is Trip Mickle, wrote the book After Steve, How Apple Became a $1 trillion Company and Lost Its Soul. Pretty negative title on Apple right there. But this book, it talks a lot about Jony Ive, his history at the company, and why he left the company eventually. And the book talks about how Ive resigned after years of frustration, seeing the company migrate from a design-centric entity to one that was more utilitarian. Apparently, Ive showed the movie Yesterday to his team as he was leaving the company and believed that movie Yesterday was a 2-hour exploration of the eternal conflict between art and commerce. And, this is one of those things that obviously Jony Ive comes up a lot when you talk about Apple devices and the era kind of from 2015, where that was kind of the last MacBook Pro that had ports, because the 2016 MacBook Pros and later just had USB-C and nothing else, until just recently, the 2021 version of the MacBook Pro that has HDMI, and you have MagSafe brought back, you have the SD card slot. And we kind of think of that era as when Jony Ive kind of went full Ive, we'll say, and really wanted to just get rid of all the ports, go as thin as possible, to the, I think, sacrifice of some of the utilitarian, like necessary use cases of those devices. And so, obviously Jony Ive's an incredible designer. It was from his mind. We have the iconic products like the iPhone and the iPad. He was head product and software designer for a while there. Yeah, it's interesting to see now the products that Apple is making, like the Mac Studio, the latest MacBook Pro, with that utilitarian feeling kind of behind the scenes. And as I had Jason Snell on the show recently, and we talked about the Mac Studio, and he described the Mac Studio as a homely device, meaning it's not super attractive in its design, but it's not really meant to be. It's meant to be utilitarian. But I do think that Apple has struck a balance between really beautiful design. Like you look at the 24-inch iMac with M1, that's a beautiful computer. I imagine the updated MacBook Air when it comes out is going to be incredible. You look at the iPad mini and the iPhone 13, like these are great designs. They're beautiful devices made with premium materials and all that. And then for product lines that really would use more utilitarian ports and functionality, I think Apple is making the right choices there in things like the Mac Studio, and I imagine the coming Mac Pro possibly at WWDC. What do you think, William? Does Apple still have its design touch along with its utilitarian nature?
The Mac Studio is just a bit ugly. That's what I think. But I still want one.
Oh, you're not even saying homely. You just said outright ugly.
No, all the way. I'm not saying it's as bad as... I used to work on a magazine where the art desk and the production desk, they had a one spare Mac, and I had to use it one day, hot desk thing. And as I sat down at it, every single art and production person in the desk watched to see how long until he hates the mouse. It was the original iMac with the hockey puck mouse. Instantaneously wrong in every possible way and horrible to use. And I don't think that of the Mac Studio. I just think it's a bit...
I mean, it's a block of aluminum with ports in it. That's all it is.
But ultimately, isn't any computer just that?
Well...
That was meant to be profound, and you just... No.
Yeah, I mean, the iMac is not. It's aluminum, but it's very colorful.
That's true.
I mean, I feel like Apple if it brought colors to things, I think that would make a big difference, especially on the Pro devices. Like the MacBook Pro, the new one that everybody loves. If they had done colors, people would have gone nuts. Like still do the gray, space gray options, but if they had a blue,
yes,
and even like, I don't know, a green, like it could still look professional. Like the machine itself looks professional. It's got an SD card slot and an HDMI port. And I think colors would really just add to it. I think Apple just needs to get off the Pro devices are gray, consumers are colored. I think if they just make colored devices everywhere, I think people would be happy about it.
I'd have bought colour for my 14-inch MacBook Pro if I could, but I'm sorry, my mind's going to the production line problem for that. Juggling, seven different colours of things and that, and the SKUs for it, and just what if everybody wants blue and nobody wants green, how you adjust that. I mean, the whole production thing is terribly fascinating anyway, but that would just be adding deep complexity to it. You're being harsh on poor old Apple who just try to get a job done.
Well, and Tim Cook, being the supply chain COO at heart, the operating officer, I imagine he's like, optimize for getting these products out the door. If you can't offer colors on the MacBook Pro, so be it. So I get it. I think colors in the new MacBook Air would go a long way. That's all I'll say.
Yes, absolutely. I do agree. Yeah.
All right. Well, you got anything else, William? It was a little tiny bit of a shorter show. It's not big news here. I mean,
well, funny if the one thing that's been on my mind, it just popped back into my head when you were saying that, when I said that about different colours and production things. As we record this, there seemed to have been a sudden delay on shipping for the Mac Studio, the MacBook Pro, and maybe for the Studio Display. I didn't look into it until I heard about the delay, so I don't know what they used to be. But right now, if you order a Studio Display today, it'll be delivered between 8 and 10 weeks. And I think the worst situation is if you configure an M1 Ultra, it's 10 to 12 weeks, so 3 months before you get that machine. There's only the 16-inch MacBook Pro that you could actually buy today and get today, and even then actually only the base configuration. Add anything, change anything, and it's about a month delay for it. This is the kind of thing we see when these devices are first announced, and it's like the initial demand is flooding the orders, and presumably pent-up demand has been sated now. So I'm not sure why this is going on, unless it's supply problems, maybe chip shortages. Any?
I think it's supply chain overall. I'm looking right now at the Studio Display. I can pick up in store a regular Studio Display base model July 20. So what is that? It's over 2 months away. So yeah, 8 to 10 weeks. And then the shipping is also 8 to 10 weeks. So yeah, it's a long way away.
Yeah, I think it's actually getting worse. It's one of those things where you start looking into something and by the time you've finished, it's worse than when you started. So order now if you want it in whatever 3 months from now is. Actually, serious point though. I know WWDC is traditionally software, and the way it always works is on the build-up. People says there's going to be hardware this year, and then there isn't, and everybody says, well, of course there weren't. It was going to be software. We always knew that. But if there's ever going to be hardware at a WWDC, it'll be this one because it marks the end of the 2-year transition.
Absolutely.
If that's true, and if something is possibly going to come out, you could order a brand new Mac now and it wouldn't be delivered until after WWDC. And you could come to regret your decision. Should you now wait to see, or will it be worse? Like, you've got to buy eventually. You can't not work on, pause your work until you get the right moment. But it's a difficult decision, a different time to make a decision now.
Well, and honestly, if something comes out at WWDC and pre-orders are that week, if you order it right then, as soon as it goes on sale, you will probably get that before something you order today.
Yes.
Like, you would probably get whatever Mac Pro before you would get a Mac Studio that you ordered right now. So something to keep in mind. All right, well, listeners, let us know. Shoot us questions maybe for next week's show. We'd love to answer kind of some frequently asked questions. Ask us anything. You can tweet at William and myself. Our Twitter handles are in the show notes. Keep those 5-star reviews coming. We appreciate those.
Next week, are you going to have Wes on the show? In which case, yes. Ask us any questions. Ask all the difficult questions. Absolutely all of them. Pile them in for next week. Okay.
And if you have questions about William's Wikipedia page, send those in and we'll do it in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from right now, we'll answer all your Wikipedia questions. Very fun. And you can support the show directly in Apple Podcasts or at patreon.com/AppleInsider, where you get an ad-free version of the show, early access, Discord channel, all of that. Thank you to all of our supporters who do that already. And of course, thank you for... Oh, and you can check out HomeKit Insider. New episode comes out Monday. We talk a lot about the Sonos voice assistant, the Amazon voice assistant stuff. So check that out. Link in show notes to HomeKit Insider as well. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.